Hello and welcome everyone. I am Vangelis and I'm an application manager for Libis. I work for Alma. This is a video introduction to Spinomatic. The Spinomatic Cloud App is a next generation web-based application that is used for label printing. It is based on the classic Spinomatic Windows application that was originally written by the Boston College Library Systems and subsequently taken over by Ex Libris. Spinomatic aims to enrich your label printing. And the real question here is, why should you switch from your current label printing tool to Spinomatic? Well, I can tell you for sure that Spinomatic is user friendlier, it's definitely faster than your current label printing tool, and has high-end accessibility. So this is one of its strong cards. High-end accessibility, it's very easily accessible. You don't have to install anything on your computer, you can just stay at home. You can open your browser. You can log into Alma and access Alma Cloud Apps, and you can access Spinomatic. It's as simple as that. However, since it is a new tool, you need to always be open to changes. Namely, Spinomatic might be already able to replicate 100% your existing labels, but it might be the case that we have a very good result, let's say up to 80% replication of the current labels, and we will need to proceed together to some changes. So you need to be open to that. But it's always like this. Small challenges are those ones that they push us to innovation. So how can you get started? Well, there are two prerequisites for this cloud app. The first one is that you need to ask for Libis to activate Alma Cloud Apps for your institution if you're not already use a cloud app within your institution, and possibly also activate Spinomatic. This means installing the cloud app in your Alma environment, but this is very simple. And the second one is to ask for Libis to provide you with a catalog administrator role if you don't already have this role. And that's specifically because this cloud app has some prerequisites for the authorization in order to adjust the configurations. And by configurations, I mean creating a template and a layout. The template is useful for you to define the contents of your label, so what you want to print on your label, let's say the location of the library or the call number of the physical item or maybe a barcode. And the layout is useful for you to define the dimensions of this label. So how much is going to be the height of the label, how much is going to be the width of the label, maybe the orientation, is it going to be portrait on landscape, and so on. Please let me just note here that even if not all members, not all of the people that they work within your institution have the catalog administrator role, they will still be able to access Spinomatic and print labels normally. What they will not be able to do is to adjust the configurations, so to change the dimensions of the label or to change the contents of the label. And this is maybe an opportunity for you to keep more control over who is going to change some things on the labels and who is not going to change some things on the labels. But in any case, we're here to guide you. I am here to guide you. And if this role is necessary for most of the people within your institution, then so be it. If you want to keep more control over it, you need to assign the catalog administrator role to few people, maybe one or two within your institution. So let's move on to the hands-on section. So how can you access Spinomatic? You can access all of the cloud apps in your Alma user interface in the right top corner menu in this square icon. So this is the Cloud App Center. You click on the Cloud App Center. Then you have the activated apps. Those are the apps that are already installed in your Alma environment. And you have the available apps. So let's click on the available apps. We can see that Spinomatic is available. We click on Spinomatic. And then we activate this app. This means that we install it. And we just click open. So this is the first page. This is the home page of Spinomatic. The first thing that we can do is that we can expand our view so we can have a better view of the cloud app. Then what we need to do, the first things that we need to do actually is to create a template so to define our label contents, and a layout to define the dimensions of our label. And we can do this via two ways. We can access the configurations via two ways. Either we can click on this button, it's quite straightforward, or we can click on the three dots menu, click on the wrench key, and then we have access to the configurations. As you can see, now we are in the configurations. There are some templates that they already exist. I want to create a new one specifically for this tutorial. So let's just say tutorial. I have to give it a name. So tutorial spine label template. So you have to give it a name and then you click OK. So now I have created successfully my first template. And in the label content section, I can define the contents of my label and format them. So what happens here is that Spinomatic gets the information that you're going to display on your label directly from Alma. And what do I mean by that? Let's just say we have an item, we have a physical item that we want to print a label for. Let's just say this one. And I want to print out on my label the permanent location, and I want to print on my label, let's just say the call number, which exists in Alma. What I will do is that I will create a template, okay, of course. I will add a new template, and in the label content section, I will add two fields. I will add a label prefix because I want to print a location, and I will explain to you very shortly what a label prefix is. So the label prefix is used to print the permanent location, but usually when you print the permanent location, you don't print the full name, but just maybe an abbreviation of this location. And the call number, just click enter because I want it to be displayed in the next row. I want to also print the parsed call number. As I showed you, this is the menu. These are all the Alma fields that you have access to. Some of them are quite straightforward. The most important ones are usually on the top. So the call number, the parsed call number, or the barcode. You can see that you can print the language, the label prefix, which is used mostly for the location. Then you have access to specific data fields from the bib record. You can see that is indicated by the bib text in the field, or from the holdings record, or also from the item level. So you have a lot of options here. You may choose wisely, but the most important ones are located on top. So the barcode, the call number, and maybe the label prefix, which is used mostly for the location. You can also add an image, but to do so you need to add an image in the images section. And how can you do this? You click on the images. Here we have already a new image uploaded. You can click on add. Let's just give it a name. Okay, this already exists, of course. Logo, tutorial logo. Okay, then you have to choose from the directory of your computer, and then you have a logo. You just click save, and then you can use an image in your template. But of course we don't want this now, so let's just go back to our tutorial spine label template. I can format those fields. I can format what is displayed similarly to MS Word, so I can bold my label prefix, my location. I can align them in the middle. I can increase the font, maybe change the font type. So let's just say I want Times New Roman. Here I can also give a text color, so I want it to be displayed yellow. Then I can add a table. Here I can define its dimensions, and here are some shortcuts, so I can delete the table also. I can access the properties. As I say, I want to add a table, and then I want to There are some specific table properties, but this is not important for now. I can also undo my last action. So my last action was to uh, assign a text color. I can also redo my last action, the action that I have undone actually. And I can also remove, clear all formatting from all those fields. So let's just clear the formatting. Yeah. And let's just say that I want to only bold out the label prefix or the location. Then we have another menu, which is called Other Options. There are extra formatting options. So for instance, for your barcode, you have to click on this option to show the barcode itself, because by default, Spinomatic will show only the barcode value. Then you can also assign some other formatting. Then for the call number, I can choose to have line breaks between my call number parts. So as you know, the call number is added in the holding section, and then there are some subfields. So the call number is usually placed in cell 852, and then there are some subfields. So let's just say subfield H or subfield I and so on. I can use this option to have line breaks between my call number parts, and then I can choose the parser. There is the Alma default parser, so this is your default parsing routine in Alma. Then you can add another formatting. You can also split the lines based on the subfield. So in line 1, I'm going to display the subfield H. In line 2, the next subfield, subfield I, and so on. Let's just use this one for now. Then there's the title, so I can truncate the title characters. Then it's a label prefix, and this is important. This is an important one. So I can add a label prefix. Because I have chosen the Alma field label prefix, I can define for all of the items that they come from a specific library. Let's just say in this case, the special collections of KU Leuven. So I can either type or search from the drop-down list for this specific location or collection. So for the tabularium, I want to display the text because I don't want to display all the text. So for example, BCMag, tabularium, and so on. I want just to display the abbreviation. So I can assign the BCMag value for all of the physical items that I want to print, that they come from the library special collections, from the location or collection BCMag tabularium. And then we're done. Then we can also have a copy number. We can also add a label for our copy ID. This is used mostly for the copy ID field in Alma. So from the holdings, the copy ID, I can just assign a label and also add an exception. So for a specific, let's just say copy number, and then if I choose this Alma field, the copy number is going to be displayed as, let's just say an item has a copy number 13. So copy number, what I'm going to display on my label is going to be copy number 13. And then I can add some exceptions here. So if I don't want a specific copy number to be displayed, let's just say 1. If an item has a copy ID that is equal to 1, it's not going to be displayed on the label. This is not important for now, so I'm going to leave it blank. Now that we are almost done with the template creation, one thing that I just want to do before saving is just to increase a little bit my font size. And then of course I want to save the template, so I just click save. You might have done this already, but if you haven't, the last thing that you always need to do after the creation of a template or a layout is to click save. Then we need to create a new layout, so we access the layouts, and likewise we add a new layout. We can add a new layout here, we can rename an existing one, or we can delete one from this menu. So I want to add a new layout. Usually I base it on Avery 5160, but you can also base it on blank or another preference. I give it a name, tutorial spine label layout. Okay, and we have successfully created a new layout. So what we can see in this section is the measurement units. So I almost always change to centimeters to have a better perception of what is going on here. We have the orientation, so either portrait or landscape. Usually I prefer the portrait. You can also change this within your printer configurations. And then we have some characteristics of the page. For example, the page width or the top margin. So how far is your etiquette, your label from the top of the paper. So usually what I do is that I reduce this to 0.1 to have better control. Then we have also the left margin, so how far compared to the left is your table in comparison to the page that you're going to print. So usually I set this also to 0.1 to have full control over it. And then we have the labels per page. I think that most of you are going to print one label per page. If there's a different case, you can have a different number here, but I always switch to one, so there is always one label per page. And then we have the characteristics of your label. So this is the horizontal gap. So this is the distance between your labels, but this counts only if you have more than one label. So this is the distance between two labels, the horizontal distance between the two labels, and the vertical gap. So this is the vertical gap, so the height difference between the labels. And this again I set it to 0.1. So the top and left margin, the horizontal and the vertical gap, I always set it to 0.1 to have full control over it. We have the left padding, so this is how much your text is going to be displayed on the left of the label. So the more you increase this, just to keep it simple, let's say I put it 0.5, the more on the left your text is going to appear. I just leave this blank or set it to 0, it's the same for me. And then the most important one is the label height and the label width. So I want to print, usually our labels are wide, so I want to print a label that has 8 centimeters width and is high, let's just say up to 4 centimeters. And then an important thing is that I can see all the changes here, so anything that you change, you can see it in the preview section. So this is very useful, and let's just do a small experiment. I will change the width to 2 from 8. Then you can see that the contents of my label, so this X is the content of my label, is going to be displayed way differently if I change this from 2 to 8 and from 8 to 2, because my label is wider, of course, when it's 8 centimeters. Then I have created this layout, and I'm going to save it. And the next thing that I'm going to do is to go back to this menu. So here you have the 3 options. How can you select which items you're going to print the label for? And there are 3 options. You can either scan items, or you can just type the barcode here. We have a special use case here, so we can just copy the barcode, and then we can just choose for it. But we don't want this option. There is the set, so you can choose to print a set. This is usually useful if you want to print labels in bulk, so you can just type in and then you can choose a set from the list. But we don't want to use this option either. We want to select items, so this is the option that we actually propose to you, to select items. And how does this work? What I practically do is that, let's just let's just clear this out and do this in a whole new window. We're in the Q11 sandbox. What you need to do is to perform a physical item search based on either keywords or barcode or whatever you want, but it has to be a physical item search, and search for an item. I search for the specific one. Now I can see here on the right top corner that one cloud app is suggested for this action, for this item. So I click on it, and I see that Spinomatic is not really activated, but it should be activated. And then what I need to do is to click on the check uncheck all if I want to print all the labels, but in this specific case there is only one, so I do click on it. But if I want to click only one, I just choose this specific option that I want. Then I click next. I have to choose a layout, to select a layout. I've already created one, the tutorial span label layout, and a template, the tutorial span label template. Then I can click on this option to print the grid lines. This is what I usually do. This helps me to define and see how the label contents are displayed on my label. I click print labels. In the destination I have to choose a printer. So this one in specific is the GX420T from Zebra. And there are also other settings. So here I need to configure my printer settings. Usually I click the option to not include any background graphics. I set margins to none, and then I see here the preview of what is going to be printed, and I know based on the grid lines where this content is going to be printed. So ideally I would like to have bigger font for the label prefix and the call number. You can see here that each subfield from the call number is displayed on a different line, and this is based on the other option, the special formatting that I have applied before. And then I can just choose to print my label. So if I click print, not right now because the printer is not connected, but in your case the label is going to be printed successfully. If it's not printed successfully, then I would advise you to go first through your configurations of the printer and then go again back to your template and a layout. So that was the first video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that I helped you set up with Spinomatic. Until the next time, just be safe. Bye bye.